Hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here. My name is Armand Naufal Erwinn, and I'm an undergraduate from Bandung Institute of Technology. I also took a double degree program at ESC Erwinn School of Business. Today, I'll be presenting to you guys my final dissertation with the title of A Study of Generation Z in Indonesia: How Different Attributes of an Influencer Endorsing a Clothing Product will impact the purchase intention. Today's presentation will be divided into 4 different segments, with the first being the problem statement and the reason behind why I choose this problem for this dissertation. And after that, I'll be talking about the methods that I've decided to use in order to make my dissertation. And after that, I'll be discussing with you guys the results that can be obtained from this dissertation. And finally, I'll be giving a conclusion and hopefully some very informative information that we all can obtain from my dissertation. Let's start with the problem statement. Endorsement is one of the marketing strategies that is used by companies and can be defined as supporting or approval towards something. Most SME in Indonesia would only choose the influencer based on the popularity and maybe the attractiveness. But in reality, there are numerous factors that could impact the purchase intention and not just their popularity and attractiveness. This report will examine different attributes of an influencer that will impact the purchase intention of local clothing products being endorsed on Instagram. And after that, these attributes will then be ranked from the most influential to the least influential. Research question and hypothesis. So in total, I've managed to use 5 different attributes, which will then be divided into 5 different hypotheses. With the first one being the gender of an influencer endorsing a clothing product will have a positive impact on the purchase intention. The second hypothesis would be the physical attractiveness of an influencer endorsing a clothing product will have a positive impact on the purchase intention. And the third hypothesis would be the popularity of an influencer endorsing a clothing product will have a positive impact on the purchase intention. For the fourth hypothesis would be the number of influencer endorsing a clothing product will have a positive impact on the purchase intention. And the last hypothesis would be the credibility of an influencer endorsing a clothing product will have a positive impact on the purchase intention. I've also created a theoretical framework so that everyone can have a better understanding on how this dissertation will be conducted. So as you can see, there are 5 different attributes and all of them linking to one box, which is the purchase intention. Now let's talk about the method. So for my dissertation, I'll be using a quantitative data, which would be obtained by creating a 5 Likert scale questionnaire, which will then be distributed to people. And the Likert scale would range from totally disagree up until totally agree. And I'll also be filtering the data by age and gender. Why by age? Because the title of this dissertation is only looking at Generation Z in Indonesia. So when we talk about Generation Z, it only includes people in the age range of 9 up until 22 years old. So that'll be the first filter. And for second filter, I'll be asking the respondents for their gender so that we can see how equal the results are between each gender. I mean, the composition of gender in the data. And lastly, since this is an exploratory factor analysis, I'll be using a software called IBM SPSS in order to conduct my analysis. Okay. Based on after the questionnaire is being distributed, I've managed to collect a total of 103 respondents, with 58 of them being male and 45 of them being female. So I would consider that this composition is quite equal between male and female. And so after that, I can continue with my analysis. So on the second table below, the important table and number that we're going to talk about is the number of R as well as the Darwin-Watson. So first, let's talk about the R. In order for me to continue this analysis, the number of R for this type of analysis should have a number of a minimum of 0.500. So any number below that is not acceptable. And thankfully, my data has an R of 0.603, which is good, which surpassed the minimum number. And now let's talk about the Darwin-Watson number. So in order for me to continue this analysis, the number of Darwin-Watson should be in the range of 1.5 until 2.5. And thankfully, my number, as you can see from this table here, is 2.085, which passes the requirement, which is in the range of 1.5 and 2.5. So then we can continue with the analysis. So the numbers that we're going to look at is firstly the standardized coefficient beta, as well as the significant value. So let's start with the standardized coefficient beta. So as you can see, for all 5 attributes, there is a number on the beta, which is for gender, it's 0.222, and for attractiveness is 0.174, for popularity is 0.195, for single and multiple endorsement is 0.257, and lastly for credibility is 0.250. And from this, we can then create a regression formula, which is purchase intention equals the beta and the attributes, and for attractiveness along with its beta, and so on and so forth. And for the second table that we're going to talk about is the significant value. As you can see, in order for this analysis to be valid, the number of significant value has to be smaller than 0.05. And thankfully, all 5 attributes have a number that is smaller than 0.05. So that being said, I can continue with my analysis. So based on the beta and the significant value, we can generate this table. So the beta for each attributes is there, as you can see, and then the significant value. And there's also a conclusion. Based on this table, we can clearly see that every attribute's conclusion is accepted because the significant value is smaller than 0.05 and the beta is also positive. And the number of beta will determine the rank of these different attributes from the most influential to the least influential. So as you can see, hypothesis 4, with the attributes of single and multiple endorsement, is the most influential one. And second, the credibility of an influencer came in second. And on third place, we have the gender of an influencer. And in ranking number 4, we have the popularity of the influencer. And lastly, the least most influential attribute is the physical attractiveness. In conclusion, all 5 attributes have a positive impact on the purchase intention. And from the table on the previous slide, we can see that having multiple endorsement is the most influential towards the purchase intention with the beta of 0.275. So based on this dissertation, when a business uses multiple influencers to endorse their product, most likely there are more people who would want to buy their product rather than just having 1 or 2 influencers endorsing a product. And lastly, the least most influential attributes would be the physical attractiveness with a beta of 0.174. So from this, we can clearly state that physical attractiveness is important, but out of all 5 is the least important when determining the right influencers to do an endorsement. So in conclusion, I think that hopefully all businesses selling clothing products in Indonesia that are targeting the Generation Z can have an understanding that the attributes of an influencer is not only about their popularity or their attractiveness, but there are multiple other attributes. And clearly from the results of this dissertation, having multiple endorsement is the most influential, while on the other hand, physical is the least most influential. I hope that you all had a great time listening to my presentation, and hopefully this information is useful not only for businesses in Indonesia, but at least businesses all over Asia, because yeah, I just hope that everyone can benefit from this information. And that's all. Thank you so much for listening my presentation, and see you soon, everyone.